We're a little more than a week into the Big Brother 28 game. The nominations are about to be finalized, and before long, we'll have our first eviction of the summer. Who's playing the best game so far, and who's in the best position to win Big Brother 28? Will it be a crossover, perhaps a red corner, or maybe someone who's technically both? Usually we'd start these rankings with a little post-mortem on the most recent evicted house guests, but since we're in week one, let's just jump right into it. I think there's a pretty definitive top 5, but figuring out how to rank them is a little tricky. It really comes down to how you evaluate each of their games individually, and I think that's where the fun discussion is. So I'll be interested to see how you guys stand in the comment section down below. I also think the bottom 5 is pretty cut and dry. It's really the middle group where things start to get a little wonky, so I'm excited to deep dive into everyone's game and figure out who's leading the pack with you guys today. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. We're going to be searching for a winner all season long, and I think it goes without saying, but spoilers are abound. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Coming in at dead last and going down 13 spots from his preseason ranking, we have Yash. As things stand right now, Yash is nominated and looks to be the house target heading into the first eviction. I think Yash is probably the most aloof player on the cast. I do think there's a world where he could be strung along as a number for somebody down the road, but right now he just doesn't seem plugged into the house. As the days have gone on, more and more people have started viewing him as a target, and he just doesn't seem to have tight relationships that some of the other players have built. You can't say that he didn't try though. He did try to form some sort of 6-person alliance with Rome and Latrice, but Rome immediately turned around and ratted this information out to Dee. I think Yash's chances of staying were a little bit better when Mallory was still on the block. Now that likely Ashley and Taylor will be sitting next to him, I think his road gets a lot tougher. If he survives this week, either by a vote or by winning the blockbuster, I think his ceiling is being used as a pawn moving forward. Unfortunately for Yash, if he is sitting on the block when it's time to vote, I think taking him out is just going to be too tempting for the rest of the house, kind of like Zay from last season. And coming in at 16, also going down 13 spots, I have Ashley. I think Ashley is an absolute killer in the DR and might already be one of my early favorites, which makes the way the first week has gone kind of a shame. Ashley didn't get a chance to compete for safety during the premiere because she didn't want to attempt a simple math problem, plus she couldn't identify Enzo in a crowd. That immediately rubbed Taylor the wrong way, and Taylor has spent pretty much the entire week alongside Latrice throwing Ashley's name out there as someone they wanted on the block. I actually thought not doing well in this safety competition or trying to get into the safety competition might come back to bite her, and at first it looked like it wasn't going to matter considering she avoided being an initial nominee, but by the end of the week it seems like it might have caught up to her since she's the leading candidate to be renominated. I do think Ashley is probably going to stay this week, but even if she survives, I kind of see her ceiling like Yash as someone who ends up being a perpetual pawn for a good chunk of the season. That's kind of unfortunate because I had really high hopes for Ashley in the preseason. I actually think she's played well enough socially, but the biggest issue is that she doesn't really seem to fit into any particular group. I do think Ashley survives if she's on the block next to Yash, but if she's sitting next to Taylor, I think the consensus might actually be Ashley. It'd be a close vote either way, and definitely the more interesting one. And coming in at 15 and going down 6 spots, I have Haley. I know logistically it probably makes more sense to put the third nominee here, but I actually think Taylor has a pretty good chance of staying. Haley, on the other hand, let's get into it. Haley seems to be doing a lot more talking than listening, and because of that, she's rubbed quite a few people the wrong way. She's technically in the red corner alliance with Dee, Chuk, Kamu, and Devens, which on paper sounds like a great place to be. The problem is that it's a fake alliance, and Dee seems to absolutely hate Haley. So it feels like that alliance is already on the verge of falling apart, which is crazy considering it's already a fake alliance to begin with. She's also rubbed people like Devens and Angela the wrong way, and she's got some tension with Rome and Lyric too after initially showing some interest in a potential showmance with Rome. So it kind of feels like she has people on both sides of the fence looking at her sideways. Several people were trying to get Haley up as the renomination this week, and she has appeared to avoid it even with Dee souring on her, but I think her days are probably numbered in that department. I think Haley is more than likely one of the targets heading into next week. Coming in at number 14 and going down 8 spots, I have Taylor. Taylor's a tough player to assess for me. I think there's a gamer in there, but there's also an emotional side, and I think she's shown both this week. She cried after being nominated, but she also had some really important conversations with Dee that I think helped take the target off of her. She really doesn't have any intention on going after Dee, and she's openly vocalized this to Dee and everyone she's talked to in the house. And I think that has helped her in the long term. Right now, the consensus seems to be that people want to keep Taylor around to work with with her. I also wasn't all that high on Taylor's game until she told Mallory that Melody wasn't going to use the veto on her. I actually thought that was really valuable information to pass along. But on the other hand, sometimes she already seems a little burnt out by the game, and she isn't really in any big alliance, but I do think she has some decent one-on-one relationships that could really help her if she leans into them. Overall, I think Taylor's in a decent enough spot, but just like I said about everyone else, pretty much that we've talked about so far, I could also see her falling into perpetual pawn territory. Coming in at number 13 and going down 8 spots, I have Melody. Melody was a real renomination option for a good chunk of this week, but it does look like she's going to survive. I don't think she's completely out of the woods though. The biggest issue for Melody this week is that I think she just talked a little too much. She's clearly a gamer, which I appreciate, but a lot of what she has said has rubbed people the wrong way. Melody, Lyric, and Mallory came into the week as a pretty clear trio, but the second Mallory hit the block, Melody went out of her way to distance herself from her. That immediately caught people's attention. Devens didn't like how quickly she abandoned Mallory. Latrice came out and said she doesn't really like Mallory because of how she handled this situation, and Angela has even been taking shots at her too, so she's definitely lost some social capital this week. And like I said earlier, Taylor told Mallory that Melody wasn't planning on using the veto on her, which I think adds to the damage that Melody has done to one of her most important relationships in the house. The good news for Melody is that Drew seems to really want to work with her or potentially drag her, pitching her a fake final 2. He talked to Devens about using her as kind of a parachute alliance. Drew and Melody have also started another alliance with Jason, which for Drew is fake, but probably gains Melody some longevity. Overall, I don't think anything Melody did this week is too irreversible. She's going to have to do some damage control because she said a little bit too much, but with someone like Drew still firmly in her corner, at least for now, I think she's got enough runway to recover if she plays the next week or two well. Coming in at number 12 and going up 2 spots from the preseason rankings, I have Mallory. Mallory got off to a rough start between the meth dream story and that awkward confessional about wanting to work with Lyric. I don't think the first impression of the house or on us as a viewer was all that great. Because of that, it really wasn't that much of a surprise when she ended up being the initial nominee based on the premiere and BB Unlocked. It felt like she was the obvious early target, but then she won the veto. And honestly, I think that's the best case scenario for her game. Not only is she guaranteed another week, but now she actually has time to strengthen some of those relationships she already has with people like Lyric, Jason, and maybe even Drew. The one relationship I'm really interested to watch is Melody. I'm really curious to see if those two can repair things or if that relationship is just completely dead in the water. I also think the house has pretty much clocked the Melody, Lyric, and Mallory trio. I wouldn't be surprised if people start taking shots at that group sooner rather than later, even if they are disbanded. Overall, I actually think Mallory comes out of this week in a better spot than she was a few days ago. Winning the veto bought her time, and now it's on her to use this extra week to build stronger relationships and get herself into a more stable position. Coming in at number 11 and going down 4 spots, I have Jason. Jason really feels like someone who's either going to flame out early or go on a really deep run. I don't see much of an in-between for him. Right away, you can tell that he came to play. He immediately started trying to lock people down. While everyone else was looking for beds, Jason was grabbing Lyric and Mallory to bunk with him like he was gathering votes for a double eviction. He's also made it very clear that he wants the returnees out, which honestly surprised me given his RuPaul's Drag Race background. The problem is that I think he's telling too many people too openly. He told Lyric that they couldn't trust Devens. He told Yash that Devens was his only true target. He told Angela that he was anti-Devens. He told Rome. He even told Devens' secret #1 ally, Drew. Rome kind of soft snitched that information back to Devens, not completely, but enough for a player like Devens to realize Jason had his sights set on him. I actually don't hate targeting Devens eventually. I just don't love how openly Jason has been about it this early. If you're going after one of the best players in the house, you have to be more careful about who you're telling. Jason also seems to be trying to play a floater game. I think it's working pretty well with the newer players, but I think the returnees have it clocked pretty much. Like I mentioned earlier, he also got pulled into a 3-person alliance with Drew and Melody called the Court Jesters. Personally, I don't buy this alliance. It feels more like Drew trying to keep tabs on Jason than an actual long-term group. Overall, I think Jason knows exactly how he wants to play the game, and he's actively trying to make it happen. The problem is that I don't think he has the numbers right now, and I'm not sure he has enough influence to pull off what he wants to do. I don't think he's in immediate danger, but as the numbers start to dwindle, I could definitely see him becoming one of the next big targets. Coming in at number 10 and actually not going up or down any spots, I have Kamu. Kamu is getting played by Dee right now. He seems really comfortable with where he stands in the house, but he doesn't realize how much of his position is built on a fake alliance. Dee has done a really good job of making Kamu and Haley feel like like they're her real allies, when in reality she's intentionally trying to make them bigger threats than her actual alliance. Unfortunately for Kamu, he's completely fallen into this trap. He's even gotten to the point where he wants to keep Devens around longer because that's what Dee wants. He's just so bought into what Dee is selling right now. It's honestly kind of funny watching him try to tell Dee what the right move is, and then when she goes in a completely different direction, he never really questions it. A good example of that was the nominations. Dee told Barrett that Kamu wanted him on the block, and Kamu seemed genuinely blindsided when Barrett wasn't the initial nominee. That's not a great look when your supposed #1 ally wins HOH, ignores the plan you talked about, and you still don't seem to realize what's happening. As someone like Drew or Barrett win HOH, I think Kamu is absolutely a nomination option. At the same time, he's such a strong physical competitor that actually getting him out of the house seems to be a pretty tall task. He's also someone I could see Lyric nominating. Honestly, I think Taylor, Latrice, Mallory, and Melody would all at least consider taking a shot at him too, so I don't think his shelf life is all that long. That said, if he ends up on the block next to Haley, I think Haley is probably the one that goes home. Coming in at number 9 and going down 8 spots, I have Chuk, my preseason winner pick. Chuk is part of the fake Red Corner Alliance, and I actually think he's kind of the voice of reason within that group and is doing his best to game with them. The problem is that I think he's become so focused on what his quote-unquote alliance is doing that he's not really aware of what's happening around him. He's also tried to reel Rome back in after Rome started drifting away. I think Rome was probably more with the Red Corner early on before the feeds turned on and before the showmance developed with Lyric, but by the time Chuk tried to pull him back in, it already felt like a lost cause. The good news for Chuk is that it doesn't seem like he's in any real immediate danger. I don't think he's going home anytime soon. That said, if people start taking shots at the Red Corner, I could definitely see him ending up on the block. There just hasn't been a whole lot else from Chuk this week that really jumps off the page. Overall, I think Chuk is in a decent spot. My biggest concern is that he seems a little too locked in with his alliance, and if that group starts falling apart, I'm not sure he's built enough outside relationships to soften the blow or improve on his position. Coming in at number 8 and going up 4 spots, I have Lyric. Lyric actually has quite a few people who seem interested in working with her. Jason and Mallory immediately gravitated toward her, but just like I predicted in the preseason, she feels like she's sitting in the passenger seat instead of the driver's seat. She's also in a showmance with Rome, and I'm curious how long that's going to be good for her game. I do think there's going to come a time where she has to choose between someone like Jason or the girls in Rome, and right now I think she'd choose Rome, and I think she'd probably lose because of it. That's kind of been my biggest takeaway from Lyric so far. She seems willing to make decisions that further other people's games more than her own. Overall, I think Lyric is in a decent enough position, but I'd like to see her start making decisions that are best for her game instead of getting pulled in so many different directions by the people around her. Right now, it feels like other people are steering her game more than she is. Coming in at number 7 and going down 5 spots, I have Latrice. Latrice is incredibly charismatic in the DR. I think she's one of the better confessionalists of the cast so far. She's also made it very clear that she's anti-Angela, and she seemed to bond with Taylor almost immediately after moving into the house. Since then, she's spent a good chunk of the week pushing her anti-Angela agenda. I'm just not sure if it was a great idea to put out into the universe that Angela would be an easy first boot, and I'm even less convinced that continuing to hammer that point home is helping her game. I think Latrice is really charming with the people she likes, but if you're not on her side, she's definitely a shit talker. She's talked plenty of trash about Ashley, Melody, Devens, and Angela already. I do think that's something that's eventually going to catch up to her, whether it's getting into a blow up with somebody or just saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. I could definitely see it becoming an issue. She was also floated out as a possible renomination by the Red Corner Alliance, although Dee never really took that idea too seriously. She does have some allies in people like Rome, Taylor, and Jason, but I'm not really sure how much power that group actually has or how much influence they possess over the rest of the house. Overall, I still think Latrice is going to be a huge character this season. I'm just starting to wonder if she's creating too many enemies too early, and eventually that's going to come back around to her. Coming in at number 6 and going up 2 spots, I have Rome. Rome pretty much came into the house exactly how I expected. Right away, he was talking about teaching people chess and how he competed in chess tournaments in high school. Brother, did you not watch last season? He also immediately proved he's going to be a character after he won the safety competition, turned around before the timer even ran out and started celebrating. And then when he came back into the house, he started screaming out, "I'm a dog, I'm a dog, I'm a champ of the 80s. This man is such a character. And like we've already discussed, he's in a very public showmance with Lyric, and I still think that's going to do more harm than good for both of their games, and I also think Rome is a little naive. Chuk pointed out that he and Lyric seemed really close, and Rome responded by saying they were only sitting so close because Lyric had lost her voice. Him trying to downplay the showmance and act like he and Lyric aren't even that close is just crazy to me when nobody is buying it. He's also just a little aloof when it comes to how he comes across. Yash asked him if he'd use the veto on him if he got picked and won it, and Rome just goes, nah, I'd probably throw the competition if you chose me, to be honest. That's probably one of those things that you could just keep to yourself. Right now, Rome kind of feels like he's here for the competition and the girls. I do think he's going to be a tough player to get out, kind of like Kamu. Ironically, those two don't really seem to see eye to eye, and I wouldn't be surprised if that rivalry eventually comes to a head and becomes a thing that takes one of them out eventually. Coming in at number 5 and going up 6 spots, I have Barrett. I was definitely wrong about Barrett, and honestly, my faith in superfans has kind of been restored. Right away, he did a fantastic job getting in with the returners, but it also feels like a majority of the new players like him too. Hell, Jason even tried hitting on him before Barrett had to tell him that he was straight. His relationship with Drew is also one of my favorites in the house right now. I was wrong about both of them coming into the season, and I really think those two together could do some serious damage. Barrett did struggle in the battle for safety competition, and for a little while it sounded like he could have been a nomination option, but we later found out that that was really more of a Kamu and Haley plan. Dee was never seriously considering it because she's already so close with Barrett. In fact, she even told Barrett they were pushing his name, which says a lot about where he stands with her. Since then, we've seen a potential showmance brewing between the two of them. The thing I like most about Barrett's game is that people seem to think they are closer with him than they actually are. Yash wanted to pick Barrett for the veto, and so did Mallory, and neither one of them are really Barrett's top allies. That's a really good spot to be in. Overall, I think Barrett is quietly playing one of the best games in the house. He's got strong relationships across multiple groups. People trust him, and right now it doesn't feel like he's taking much heat at all. If he can keep that up, I think he's going to be around for a long time. Coming in at number 4, a person who was not ranked last time because we didn't know he was on the cast 100%, we have Devens. Devens, short for Rick Devens. We heard a lot from him on Sunday's episode. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the narrator of the season. I think he's set up incredibly well. Positionally, I think he's in about as good of a spot as anybody in the house. Drew seems completely ready to ride with him. Barrett is one of his closest allies. Angela loves him. Dee really seems to trust him as well. He's done a really good job locking down relationships with both fraternities and the newcomers. I also think he's done a great job of talking with just about everybody while still operating from the shadows. It doesn't feel like he's overexposing himself, even though he's involved in almost everything. One conversation that really stood out to me was the one that he had with Rome. He did a great job hyping Rome up and making him feel comfortable, and because of that, Rome started opening up and mentioning Jason talking to him. I think that conversation made Devens a lot more aware that Jason has his sights set on him, and that was just really good social gameplay. He does have a few detractors like Latrice, and Jason is really the only person who is outwardly targeting him right now, but right now those voices seem to be the minority. Overall, I think Devens has played a fantastic first week. He's built relationships all over the house. He's gathering information without showing his hand too much, and right now it feels like he's one of the players with the most control over how the game is heading. Coming in at number 3 and going up 8 spots, I have Drew. I was definitely wrong about Drew. He's been gaming non-stop ever since the feeds came on, and I think he's put himself in a really good position. The biggest thing working in Drew's favor is just how well he's integrated himself into the house. I really like the work he's done with Devens so far, and their secret final 2 has been awesome to watch develop. I also really like Drew's read on Melody. Even after she was so quick to jump ship on Mallory, he still wanted to get closer to her. I also think Drew's position is really strong because he's connected to so many of the outsiders. Between relationships with people like Jason and Melody, plus his spot within the majority, he's setting himself up really well if those relationships make it to at least the jury phase. The only concern I have is if someone outside of his group wins power. I do think Drew becomes a nomination option as a potential pawn, but overall I think he's playing one of the better games in the house right now. Coming in at number 2, another player we didn't have ranked because they weren't in the house yet, I have Dee. I think a week 1 head of household was exactly what Dee needed to set herself up for a potentially dominant run. I really think this could be the beginning of something. Early on, her strategy of nominating one person from each HOH group seemed almost too simple, and I think it actually made people underestimate her. She came across like she didn't fully grasp the game, and that played up aloofness did wonders because people just assumed she wasn't thinking strategically. Then Sunday's episode showed exactly what was happening behind the scenes, and it was just a treat to watch. On the feeds, we were all trying to figure out how much of it was an act and how close she really was to Kamu and Haley, and it turns out it was a complete infiltration from the beginning to protect herself and Devens. That was really cool to see after trying to piece it together on the feeds. I think Dee's biggest strength right now is that she always is 2 steps ahead. She has Kamu, Haley, and Chuk believing they're her core alliance, but she's actually much tighter with Devens, Angela, Barrett, and Drew. She's even got Devens completely buying into her game. He told Drew and Angela about the red corner. Then when he told Dee that he ended up doing this, he apologized after Dee found this to be poor gameplay and it made him feel bad. He even gave a confessional saying Dee is better than him at these games, which objectively she probably is, but it also shows just how much trust she has built with him and how much control she kind of has over this house where people really want to work with her. That's what's been so impressive to me. Dee already has people volunteering information, teaching her how to play Big Brother, and protecting her game. She's got people wrapped around her finger already. On top of that, she's even got people on the other side helping her. Lyric has already talked about trying to prevent Mallory, one of the few people actually targeting Dee, from taking a shot at her. That's an incredible spot to be in. Overall, I think Dee has played about as good of a week 1 HOH as you can ask for, especially by modern Big Brother standards. I also think she's the most connected player in the house. She has a real core with Devens, Angela, Barrett, and Drew, while also maintaining strong relationships with Kamu, Haley, and Chuk. As long as people like Latrice or Mallory doesn't win the next HOH, Dee is going to be just fine. I can really see the vision with Dee right now. She seems to be locked in. And coming in at number 1, surprisingly, I have Angela. Angela might be one of the biggest surprises of week 1. Coming into the season, I think everyone expected chaos, but somehow she's become one of the best positioned players in the house. Angela linked up with Devens almost immediately, and those two have become a really strong duo alongside Dee, Barrett, and Drew. The group just feels incredibly solid right now. She also has Dee's complete trust, which is massive. Every time those two are together, they genuinely look like they're enjoying working with each other, and I think that's one of Dee's most important relationships. It was also really cool to see Angela give Dee advice about handling the first HOH after admitting she didn't handle it very well during Big Brother 26. That's a huge sign of growth compared to the Angela we watched in Big Brother 26. I also think enough of the newbies have connected with Angela that she's insulated on multiple sides of the house. She definitely has a couple of people coming after her like Latrice and maybe Jason, but compared to where I thought she'd be, she's in a phenomenal spot. She's also kind of become the mom of the house. She spent a lot of time comforting people who ended up on the block, and pretty much all of them have had really positive things to say about her afterwards. There's a certain feeling you get watching Dee and Angela together and then Drew and Devens together, where it feels like the alliance is the real deal. Honestly, it has the makings of a steamroll if nobody takes a shot soon. It's honestly weird seeing Angela get along with everyone this well and fit so naturally into a well-oiled machine of an alliance. That's just not the version of Angela we got the first time around. Overall, I think Angela is in one of the best positions in the house. If she can keep this up and avoid becoming too obvious of a threat, I think she has a real chance to make a deep run. Alrighty guys, and that was my Big Brother 28 week 1 power rankings, and here is the spreadsheet. I'll be having these at the end of the video so you guys know how the players have been moving up and down over the course of the season. What do you guys think? Do I have anybody too high? Do I have anybody too low? Let me know in the comment section down below, and don't forget to check the links down below as well. You could read all my articles at inland360.com or on my Substack. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.